More than 70 people are dead and close to 900 hurt in the uprising. Now, you probably remember Ortega. He was the Sandinista rebel leader who overthrew the Nicaraguan dictatorship in 1979 and then fought a civil war against US-backed Contras during the Reagan years in the 80s. Now, after serving multiple terms as president, increasing discontent with Ortega's stifling autocracy has burst into the open after his government cut back social security systems, and that sparked a nationwide uprising last month. Human rights group Amnesty International says the government is using a shoot-to-kill strategy on protesters. Now, today is Mother's Day in Nicaragua, and tens of thousands of people are taking to the streets to remember the sons, the brothers, the fathers killed since the violence began. And I put all of this to a mother and human rights defender, Bianca Jagger, one of Nicaragua's most famous faces. She's seen the violence firsthand when students clashed with armed officers at a university on Monday. And she joined me from Nicaragua's capital, Managua. Bianca Jagger, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Here you are, trying to bring a lot of attention to this underreported chaos that's engulfing your country. Are you going out? Will you be part of the march that's being held today by the mothers?
I will indeed be marching with the mothers, since what I'm doing here is to support the students and to call upon Daniel Ortega and his wife, Rosario Murillo, who is the vice president, to stop the killing of the students, of the youth in this country, and of the civilian population. Therefore, I feel it's my duty to be with the mothers and to call, maybe he will change his mind and stop and release the students who are in prison today, because many of those students have appeared to be tortured, to be burned, and to be killed. And the report that I participated yesterday from Amnesty, the report is called Shoot to Kill. And that is what I've seen while I've been in Nicaragua, that the police, the paramilitary, and the turbas, as they call here, and the riot police are shooting to kill the students and anyone who opposes them.
Bianca, you were at the Managua University earlier this week, and a whole mayhem erupted, and you were quoted as saying they, the security forces, were dressed to look as if they were going to war, except that their targets were young, unarmed students. Describe what you yourself experienced as that broke out at the university.
I was at a university called the University of Central America, UCA, and across the street from that university is the engineers university. And while I was visiting the dean of that university, who's been persecuted, we began to hear shots and we began to hear mortars, and we came down and I went all the way to the area close to the other university where I could see what was happening. And first we saw the paramilitaries who arrived, the Juventud Sandinista. And then the population came to support the students who were inside, barricaded inside the engineers university. And there was a moment of calm. But then they sent on the anti-riot police. But the anti-riot police are coming dressed, and some of the police has AK-47, some have weapons of war, and they come on as if they're going to war. And the most shocking thing to me when I saw that is that they're coming to shoot and to kill the students who are unarmed and who are determined to be fighting a civic, non-violent revolution in this country, have no intention in any way who use violence against the Ortega regime. And why is that happening? And for those people who cannot understand the difference of having young people who have been the victims, who have been the ones who have been killed. So far we have 85 people who've been killed. There is at least 900 or 1,000 who've been wounded. There are many hundreds who have disappeared and who are in jail. And this continues, and it doesn't seem to stop. We need the international community to speak up. We need the leaders from Latin America who speak up. We need Mr. Almagro, who is the secretary of the OAS, to speak up, because Mr. Almagro gave the seal of approval to the elections in Nicaragua, the elections that were not real, elections that were stolen from the people in Nicaragua. So now it's his turn. What is happening? I mean, why is Nicaragua not the center of attention? Why is it not important that students, that kids have been killed?
Well, we are paying attention to it now, and perhaps it was that amount of death that caused the world to focus on it, particularly at a time when the United States has so many struggles now with what's happening in, south of its border and trying to combat refugees and migrants who are coming over. But I want to play you've talked a lot about Daniel Ortega, and earlier, a couple of weeks ago, during talks mediated by the Catholic Church, this is what he said about all of this violence. Just take a listen.
Nos duele la muerte de cualquier ser humano en el planeta.
We are pained by the death of any human being on this planet when they die violently. And of course, the deaths pain us. These kids, these youngsters, young people of different political views. Because there were kids who opposed the government, who are critical of the government, well within their rights. And Sandinista kids died too. And police died as well.
What do you make of what he said? And again, in light of the Amnesty report that specifically says that they found the government ordering shoot-to-kills and colluding with mobs to suppress protests.
He is a liar, a hypocrite. Either he is delusional or doesn't know what he's talking about. He is the chief in charge. He has put himself in the Constitution as the person who is in charge of the police, of the army, of everything. He has dismantled all legal institutions. And I, today, on Mother's Day in Nicaragua, I call upon Daniel Ortega and Rosario Murillo to please stop the killing of our young people. This is unfair. You are killing innocent civilians who are not fighting with you with weapons like you did against the Mossad. So stop lying. Stop misleading the public. You can no longer mislead the people in Nicaragua. The sleeping tiger has awakened.
So let me ask you about the specifics, because everybody remembers Nicaragua from the 80s, the bad old days, if you like. But on the other hand, some people thought that Daniel Ortega was doing a heroic job of fighting a dictatorship. What happened? What went wrong? Because clearly he's been in power now for at least the last 11 years, and that was after another long stint in the late 90s. What are people so angry about?
You know what I learned in life and why I am a human rights defender and not a politician is because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I know Daniel Ortega very well. I know Rosario Murillo not as well as I do him. I fought the Contra-Revolution. But this man, when he lost the election, which he was decent, and he handed over power to Mrs. Chamorro, when he came back to power, it was perverse. It was corrupt. He made deals with the most corrupt members of society in this country. He made deal with the richest family, with the oligarchy, with the private sector. He began to buy political parties. He began to dismantle political parties. He dismantled the legal institution, and he did everything so that he had control. He bought all the network. He has about 12 or 14 networks, television network. We only had one independent paper and one independent radio, another small radio. He had control of everything, of the media, of the information. That's why he's not only killed the student, but he killed journalists as well, and human rights defenders.
Bianca, what do you make of that group of people who you're talking about, who for a long time supported him? Because I sort of understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that elements of the military are uncomfortable with this level of violent response, that members of the private sector are becoming uncomfortable with what's going on, that the Catholic Church, which was trying to mediate, saw that it was going nowhere and it has just stepped out. It doesn't want to be involved in something that's escalating in violence like this, and the Pope has called for an end to this violence. Are important sectors of Nicaraguan society turning away from Ortega, or are they still sticking with him?
Well, the most important one, the military, has come out and said they will not shoot at the population, at the civilian population. That's really important for the time being. Then you have, of course, the private sector who feel targeted in a way, feel shamed because of the deals, some of them, with the deals that they have with the government. So they have issued a statement to try to distance himself from him. The Catholic Church today is different. Cardinal Obando y Bravo caved in and campaigned with Daniel Ortega. But the church today and the conference of bishops that have been leading the dialogue in Nicaragua are remarkable. And we have a heroic priest that is called Silvio Baez, that people love in this country, and who is really a leader and who stand up and who's been threatened to be killed. His life is in danger in Nicaragua. So you have a lot of those sectors who have in some ways been supported Daniel Ortega, who are turning his back. So he's against the wall. But my fear is that dictators who are desperate will do desperate things. And today when I march, on Twitter, there are some calls to attack the mothers and all of those who participate in the march. So when I go out, I am wondering what will happen to them, what may happen to me. I don't know. I hope that God is with us and that I will come back and be able to talk to you again.
Well, I hope so too, Bianca. Are you afraid?
Yeah. You know, people who say they're not afraid, they're foolish. I mean, I've been with you in Bosnia. I've been afraid. I know the risk. I am here because I think that my voice is important. I am here because I feel about each of these kids as if they were my kids, or maybe my grandchildren, you know, as a mother. And because I can't conceive, I can't fathom that little children, because they are children, some are 15, have been killed, and that they are prepared to be killed. They prepare to sacrifice themselves. I have met with them, and they say to me, you know, we think we're dead. Every minute that we live, we're living on borrowed time.
Well, listen, thank you for putting a spotlight on this incredible story, and good luck. Bianca Jagger, thanks for joining us from Managua.
Thank you.
So because of the accusations against pro-government armed groups, we have reached out to the Nicaraguan government to respond, but they have not gotten back to us. And that is it for our program tonight. Thanks for watching, and goodbye from London.